Have you ever walked into a room and immediately known something was off before anyone said a word? Not because you were told, not because anything looked out of place. You just felt it. The way the air felt different, the way someone's voice had a slight edge to it, the way a smile didn't quite reach someone's eyes. And later, when it turned out you were right, you probably didn't feel proud. You felt tired. Because being that aware all the time isn't a gift the way people assume it is. For a lot of people, it's exhausting. There's a certain kind of person who notices everything. The way a friend's tone shifts mid-sentence. The way someone's body angles slightly away right before they say something dishonest. The way a room goes quiet in a way that isn't quite normal. Most people walk through these moments without registering them at all, but some people can't not register them. Their mind is always scanning, always cross-referencing, always asking, underneath everything, is this safe? If this sounds familiar, you're not imagining it. And you're definitely not alone. Here's what's interesting, though. This isn't really about intelligence. It's not about being more observant as a personality trait, the way some people say they're just naturally detail-oriented. What's actually happening is something much deeper and much older. It has to do with how your nervous system was shaped, often long before you had the words to describe what was happening to you. Think about it this way. Somewhere along the way, being aware kept you safe. Maybe it was a household where the emotional temperature could change without warning. Maybe it was a friendship where you had to read between the lines just to know where you stood. Maybe it was something quieter than that, a subtle sense that if you weren't paying attention, something important might be missed or something painful might happen again. Whatever it was, your brain learned a lesson, and it learned it well. Watch closely. Don't get caught off guard. Notice everything before it notices you. This is where the psychology gets fascinating. There's a part of your brain called the amygdala, and one of its main jobs is threat detection. It's fast, it's constant, and it doesn't wait for permission from the more logical, slower parts of your mind. When a person grows up in an environment where uncertainty was common, whether that uncertainty was emotional, relational, or something else entirely, the amygdala can become more sensitive. Not broken, not dysfunctional, just tuned differently. Like a smoke detector that's been calibrated to go off at the faintest hint of smoke, because once, a long time ago, that sensitivity actually saved you from something. Researchers who study attachment early development suggest that children raised in unpredictable environments often develop what's sometimes called hypervigilance. It's not a diagnosis in itself, it's more of a survival adaptation. And here's the part that explains so much. That adaptation doesn't switch off just because the environment changes. You can leave the situation that created it. Years can pass, life can become completely safe, and your nervous system can still be running the old program. Still scanning, still bracing, still noticing everything, just in case. That's why you might find yourself reading a text message 5 times, trying to detect the emotional undertone behind a simple "okay." That's why you might sit in a meeting and feel like you can sense tension in the room before anyone else even reacts to it. That's why a change in someone's typing speed on a chat app can make your stomach tighten, even if logically nothing is wrong. But here's what nobody talks about. This heightened awareness doesn't just apply to danger. It applies to everything. People who are hyper-aware often notice beauty more intensely, too. A shift in light through a window. A stranger's small act of kindness. A song that suddenly means something different than it did last year. Their attention isn't selectively tuned to threat. It's tuned to detail, and detail cuts both ways. It makes pain sharper, but it also makes wonder deeper. Which is part of why so many hyper-aware people are also deeply creative, deeply empathetic, and often the ones friends go to when they need someone to actually listen. It gets even stranger, though. Some psychologists point to something called interoception, which is your brain's ability to sense what's happening inside your own body. heart rate, muscle tension, subtle shifts in breathing. People who are highly attuned to their external environment often have a heightened sense of their internal environment as well, which means they don't just notice when someone else's mood shifts. They notice the exact moment their own body starts to tense in response. A held breath, a tightened jaw, a stomach that drops half a second before their brain even understands why. Now here's the part that might genuinely surprise you. This constant noticing isn't just draining because of what it picks up. It's draining because of what it has to filter out. Imagine trying to have a normal conversation while, in the background, some part of your mind is simultaneously reading tone, body language, word choice, silence, timing, and emotional subtext all at once in real time without being asked to. That's not multitasking. That's a full-time job your brain took on without your permission, and it never really clocks out. This is why hyper-aware people often describe feeling tired in social situations that others find effortless. It's not that they dislike people. It's that connecting with people, for them, involves a level of processing most people never have to think about. While someone else is simply enjoying a conversation, a hyper-aware person might be enjoying it and simultaneously monitoring it, checking it, making sure nothing underneath the surface has shifted. Here's where it becomes even more fascinating. Some researchers in personality psychology have connected this pattern to a trait known as sensory processing sensitivity, sometimes described in more casual terms as being a highly sensitive person. This isn't about being emotionally fragile, despite how the phrase sounds. It's a neurological difference in how deeply the brain processes incoming information, whether that's sound, light, emotion, or subtle social cues. Some studies suggest this trait shows up in roughly 15 to 20% of the population, which means if this is you, you are far from broken. You are, in a very real sense, wired for depth. But depth has a cost, and that cost is often invisible to everyone except the person carrying it. Have you noticed how hyper-aware people often apologize for things that aren't their fault? How they replay conversations at night, analyzing a sentence someone else has already forgotten they said. How they can walk away from a perfectly pleasant interaction and still feel unsettled because some small detail didn't add up, and their mind refuses to let it go until it does. This isn't overthinking in the dismissive way people use that word. It's pattern recognition working overtime, trying to protect you from something it's not entirely sure is even there anymore. What if the real question isn't why some people are so aware of everything, but what they were once trying to survive? Because that's the deeper truth underneath all of this. Hyper-awareness rarely comes from nowhere. It's shaped by moments, relationships, and environments that taught a person their safety depended on noticing things quickly. A parent's mood, a friend's honesty, a partner's shifting affection. Somewhere, the lesson was learned that missing something small could cost something big. And the mind, being remarkably adaptive, decided it would rather be exhausted than caught off guard again. This is also why hyper-aware people often make extraordinary friends, partners, and even leaders. They notice when someone is struggling before that person says a word. They remember details others forget. They sense when a relationship needs attention long before it becomes a problem. Their awareness, painful as it can be, often makes them deeply attuned to the emotional needs of the people around them. It's a strange kind of gift wrapped inside a burden. And here's the emotional truth worth sitting with for a moment. If you recognize yourself in any of this, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means, at some point, your mind decided that watching closely was the safest way to move through the world. That decision may have made sense once. It may have even protected you. But it's worth asking gently, without judgment, whether that same level of vigilance is still necessary now. Some psychologists suggest that healing this kind of chronic hyper-awareness isn't about forcing yourself to stop noticing things, because that's not really possible, and it's not even the goal. It's about slowly teaching your nervous system that it's allowed to rest, that not every silence is a warning sign, that not every shift in tone requires immediate analysis, that safety can exist without constant surveillance of the people around you. This isn't something that changes overnight. It's something that changes through repeated experiences of actually being safe until, slowly, your body starts to believe it. There's something quietly beautiful in that idea, that the same mind capable of noticing every small danger is also capable of learning, in time, to notice safety just as clearly. The wiring that once scanned for threat can, with patience, begin scanning for peace instead. Not because the awareness disappears, but because what it's searching for finally changes. So if you've spent your life being the one who notices everything, the one who reads a room before anyone else does, the one who feels things a little too intensely and thinks about conversations a little too long, understand this. You're not too much. You're not broken. You're not overreacting. You are a person whose mind learned, somewhere along the way, that attention was survival. And now, the real work isn't learning to notice less. It's learning that you're finally allowed to feel safe enough to notice differently. And once you start understanding your own mind this way, a new question tends to surface. Because hyper-awareness rarely exists on its own. It's almost always connected to another pattern, one that shapes how you love, how you trust, and how close you let people get before some part of you pulls back. That pattern has a name too, and understanding it might explain even more about why you are the way you are.